Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Just in case you're new here, on this channel we mostly just talk about motorcycles, but we're really open to all types of power sports. If it has wheels and an engine, I'm interested. Today, we're going to be discussing this 2020 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse. At the end of this video, I'm going to tell you whether or not this motorcycle right here is a good buy, or if you should be saying goodbye. Keep in mind, even though this is a 2020 model, everything, all the specs on it are applicable to 2023 models and anything in between. Really, the only differences that you're going to find are going to be paint, and the ride command display is going to be slightly different. Let's talk about some specs. We're going to start with the motor. This is a 116 cubic inch Thunderstroke power plant, churning out about 126 foot-pounds of torque at 2,900 RPM. But I will tell you, this motor is really not made for horsepower, and it's really nothing impressive at only 85 horse. But when you break it down and think about it, these pushrod style engines are really never focused on horsepower, and more so practically used for torque. The machine weighs in at a stonking 830 pounds wet and ready to ride. And 830 pounds might sound like a lot, but it is nothing compared to your mom. From the factory, you'll find the bike has a 25.6 inch seat height. And for reference, I am 6'1". You've got to remember, this is a big frame touring motorcycle, so it's also very wide going down, which means your legs are spread out a little bit further, so you won't have as much bend in your knees compared to something like an Indian Scout. This bike is equipped with some cams and an exhaust, so I do want to give you guys a sound clip and show you what this thing sounds like with that setup. Have a listen. A couple of things that stand out on this motorcycle compared to the competition. The power locking saddlebags are easily one of my most favorite features to highlight, because to get that from Harley-Davidson, you have to buy a CVO, which means minimum you're going to be dropping about, I don't know, 40,000. But the Chieftain Dark Horse and the Chieftain Limited and several other baggers in the lineup come with that as a standard feature for way less than a CVO. You're also going to get throttle nose, which is included in the ride-by-wire setup. I'll touch a little bit more on that during the test ride. And on the upper echelon of the trim levels for this motorcycle, you also get navigation, which is very similar to Harley-Davidson's GPS system they do on their bikes for the Special Series and the CVO series. And the last thing I always love to point out is the variable windscreen up front. This is easily one of my most favorite features from Indian Motorcycle, and it's something that Harley-Davidson just can't touch because all of their windshields are hard mounted. So, that is enough jabber-jawing. I am going to flip this to me in the future doing a test ride. And hello everybody, welcome to the test ride. Caught a bit of a break in the weather today in February, had a lovely sunny and 60-degree day. I'm catching the tail end of it here, and I get the privilege of riding this wonderful 2020 Chieftain Dark Horse out before the end of my night. And I think what I enjoy about the Indian Chieftain so much is that it has incredible balance. Even with a fork-mounted fairing that mounts to the handlebars and adds a little bit of weight to turns, even doing low-speed maneuvers, this thing handles like a champ. And no, it's not as sporty as something like a Lowrider ST or a Road Glide ST or a Street Glide ST. You know, Indian hasn't necessarily captured that performance bagger segment aside from the Indian Challenger, which basically knocks everything else out of the water. But the Indian Chieftain definitely has some admirable qualities about it. It is a heavyweight motorcycle with a big body frame. It's made to do some pretty serious touring. It just doesn't have the added wind protection like the Roadmaster or the Indian Pursuit does, because those are both classified as touring motorcycles, where the Chieftain and the Challenger are classified as bagger motorcycles. Both are going for a different audience. Both do have radios and touring amenities. One just does touring a little bit better with some heated assortments, wind protection, and cargo space. The Chieftain though, man, this is like the bagger from Indian Motorcycle. I'm not going to say this is what put them on the map, because it was probably the classic motorcycles that did that, but this is what kept the attention of enthusiasts wanting to make that switch from Harley-Davidson and get a taste of the new kid on the block. What did he say? Lean angle on these motorcycles, I believe, is 31 degrees. I haven't found the floorboard yet going around this roundabout. Front end feels confident and stable. The suspension is definitely street oriented. It is soft. These bikes absolutely can haul ass though. If you keep them in that torque curve, they really move out very well. And they're a lot of fun to ride because you've got a radio, you've got all sorts of diagnostics on your screen. That was one thing I forgot to talk about during the walk around, is the 7-inch ride command display. I've got various rider screens that tell me what's going on in my current ride. I've got a GPS oriented screen, and then even a diagnostic focus screen, so I can get some good readouts and keep an eye on everything going on with the motorcycle at a quick glance. And then if I want to see speed and RPM, I've got both of those right here, just a quick look down in either direction. Also got a storage pocket up here if I want to toss my phone in there before I take off. This is a pre-owned bike, so now would probably be a good time to talk about some accessories that the previous owner put on, like these Indian mid-rise bars. These put your hands right at shoulder height for me. I'm 6'1". Maybe if you have a shorter torso, it might land a little bit different for you. He's also added the Clockworks flared windscreen. Throws wind up over your head a lot better than that factory straight cut option. He's also added these highway pegs, which I don't really care for these, but hey, if you want to stretch out and really look like a Mac Daddy, that's how you do it right there. Also has a Corbin saddle on this bike, which this thing, whoo, I could pull some serious miles and hours in the saddle on this bike. Paired with this backrest he's got back there as well, this really makes for a super comfortable ride. And then of course for passenger comfort, we can top it off with a sissy bar and a luggage rack out back so we can carry some extra goodies and keep our passenger nice and confident on the back so that they're having a good time, which means that we're having a good time. Big bump? No problem. This bike doesn't care about bumps in the road. And then of course you have cruise control. You all know I'm a massive fan of cruise control on any motorcycle. I think it is so nice to be able to have that ability to stretch your hands out whenever you want to. This is the part where we do a 0 to 60 test. Yes, I'm going downhill. No, I do not care. I'm gonna do my best to launch it and get it from 0 to 60 as quick as possible. 3, 2, 1. So now that I'm on the highway, I don't necessarily need an incredibly responsive throttle. I'm gonna stick it back into tour mode, and we're gonna get a lot softer throttle response. Really appreciate that Indian puts that in there. Harley Davidson, do better. And now that we're on the highway and we're getting some weird tailwinds from this tractor trailer in front of us, it'd be a great time to exercise our thumb and use that variable windscreen. And suddenly all of my worries have disappeared, and my audio probably sounds better because there's not a bunch of wind hitting my helmet. And now we're just kind of moseying along, 80 miles per hour, 3,000 RPM, 6 gear. On average, these motorcycles get between 35 and 50 miles per gallon, depending on what kind of rider you are. And with 5.5 gallons, that means that you could go up to about 250 miles on a single tank, which is pretty darn good if you're wanting to do some serious touring. And yeah, now we're chugging down the interstate doing 70 miles per hour, and the bike is just kind of doing its thing. This backrest, I tell you what, man, you really don't appreciate a backrest until you use one and you realize what all the hype is all about. I could ride like this for hours probably. Such a comfortable saddle on this motorcycle. And that's probably in part due to it being a Corbin seat. If you know what Corbin is, you know that they make the most premium deluxe comfort motorcycle seats for a wide variety of motorcycles. So I guess that I've got to start getting my thoughts prepared on what I think of this motorcycle. I sell Indian, so of course I'm going to be a little bit biased, but I really do think that compared to a Street Glide, which if you haven't figured it out already, that's what the Chieftain is competing against. This bike brings a lot of good value to the table and significantly better balance in my opinion. Are there a couple of things where Indian could probably do better and really knock this bike out of the park? Yes. Do I foresee that happening in the future at some point? Probably. Keep in mind, Indian is still kind of on a comeback. They've only been around since, I think, 2013 under Polaris Industries. So the more motorcycles they manufacture, the greater the economies of scale, which means the cost of parts goes down, yada yada yada. If they can secure parts at a lower cost, that means they can offer bikes at a lower cost to the consumer, which doesn't usually happen, so like I'm not banking on it happening, but you know, that could be something in the future, who knows. But anyhow, let's give our final thoughts on the Indian Chieftain. So I think this bike is for somebody who's looking to buy, I think this bike is for someone who's looking to get into a heavyweight touring motorcycle and do some serious riding. Keep in mind, this is heavy. This is not a beginner bike. I don't think it should be your first bike. Could it be? Yes. Should you respect it a lot more than a lot of other options? Absolutely. If you're back and forth between Harley Davidson Street Glide and an Indian Chieftain, seriously, ride both. Again, I know I'm biased because I sell Indian motorcycle, but I thoroughly believe that the Chieftain is a better balanced motorcycle, makes more power, more efficiently, and just overall is a better riding experience because of all of those small variables. And for those reasons, I think this is a good buy. If you're looking for something that's not so heavily focused on touring, maybe you want something that's more bar hopper friendly, you can get away with that on this bike, but is it the best candidate for that? Absolutely not. If you're looking for a bagger that has amazing performance straight out of the crate, this is an okay option, but really you should probably be looking at an Indian Challenger or the ST line from Harley Davidson. It's hard to fault this bike, but if any of those things apply to you, then this is probably a good buy. I meant to film my outro earlier, but I will just do it now. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this. If you want to see more stuff like this, check out some of my other videos in this playlist here. I really don't have anything else to add. I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for 2,500 subscribers. To all of you, thank you, have a great day, and ride safe.